Hello, guys, and welcome to the race review of Monaco 2022 Grand Prix. It's your host, Matt, back again on what is a Monday afternoon. We apologise for not coming live straight after the race, but due to the shenanigans of the stewards, unfortunately, I ran out of time to be able to record a good stream for you guys. So we thought we'd do it the day after. And actually, I think it's benefited us in a way because now we know all the investigations that have happened that we can cover it for you guys all in one stream, which is lovely. I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Wayne. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It was an interesting. I don't know where to put it, but it was a bit of a shambles all the way through the Grand Prix from start to finish. We'll obviously get into it. Glad that Mick Schumacher's okay for his crash because it looked quite a bad one. And yeah, it will be interesting. So, because I know someone's going to be doing a bit of ranting about a certain driver, but we'll get into it obviously, and there's a lot of talking spots. And I think the biggest losers of the weekend was actually Monaco itself, because I think they shot themselves in the foot. And like I said, we'll get into it and we'll talk from the start. But I'll let the main man Matt get into it.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I mean, all I'm going to say first of all is for all you football fans that are listening, to put this in perspective, the FIA made Anthony Taylor competent. That's how bad the decisions were from start to finish. It was a weekend of just I was pulling my hair out with some decisions, pulling my hair out of how long it was taking, and I just I don't know. F1 is going in a weird direction. I don't like it. But it is what it is. We'll get right into it. So started with we couldn't even get the race started before we had to moan. So you had, obviously, there was widely speculated that there would be rain, short bursts of rain throughout the Sunday. I think most people knew that going into the race. I think me and Wayne spoke about it the day before. We were like, let's have a look at the weather forecast, see what Monaco's like. And we said it was going to be 50% chance of rain, which is very much, it's probably going to rain. And certain teams, Mercedes, for example, knew that, had their wet weather tyres on the grid ready in case. And I think maybe that was more of a thing of they're praying for wet, because I think that's what Mercedes wanted for the race to shake it up. It didn't work for them, unfortunately, but we'll get to that later on. But other drivers, certain drivers that I won't name because people will say I have an agenda, didn't bring their tyres onto the thing. And about, was it 20 minutes, 15 minutes before it was due to start, they announced that they were going to delay the race start because of the rain. And then it was found out because certain people didn't have tyres ready for the rain. Wayne, for me, I'm one of them. I'm one of them cynics. Well, if you haven't got the right tyres on at the point of you've put them on, tough luck. That's racing. You go round your one lap with them slicks on. If you crash, you crash. If you get round, you have to put a pit in, and that's your loss. It's a team decision, team strategy. Especially at the point where at that time it wasn't exactly heavy rain till about 10 minutes later. So what did you think of that decision? Do you think that was bizarre, and do you think it's funny that again it's a Red Bull team that is benefiting from that?
It weren't just the Red Bull though. There's a lot of teams.
Yes, but one of the main.
Yeah, one of the one main ones were them, but it weren't just them. So we clear, it was a lot of teams that didn't do it, but it was just a poor communication level. There was rumours, what I was talking in the race, that it could have been a power cut that could have stopped it as well, the start. And Martin Brundle made a little comment saying, well, he should have put a pound in the meter then. It's just like Monaco generally let themselves down now. I think the stewards let themselves down because if I remember rightly, last year there was one race that Hamilton actually started on his own, and everyone had to go in the pit and change tyres because of the weather. It's not like they couldn't do that again. They took the interesting part of it because that first corner, when everyone's going for that first corner, is one of the main talking points of Monaco because it's such a tight corner. Getting everyone go for the normally accidents there waiting to happen, and with the weather and everything, it could have been a good spectacle, and it could have been someone from the front line could have had an accident, and someone like Norris or Hamilton or Russell, they could have been higher up. It took the whole interesting factors out away from it. They botched it up in so many ways because 1 minute is but they was doing it for a safety reason because of weather. But like they were saying, this is Formula One. This is what they're paid for.
I'm not
This
being
is
funny.
not.
They're the best. They're the best drivers in the world. If they can't, and there's the thing I was annoyed with. If it was tipping it down with rain, I can understand the safety argument because you look at things like Japan back in the day when there was just cars after cars skidding off, and that they were in full wet.
Nuremberg.
My point, yeah,
Nuremberg.
Nuremberg is another good thing, but it was barely raining. Hey, you could see dry parts on the track, so it's at that point where legitimately it is between inters or slicks. Maybe it was edging onto the inters, but if you haven't got inters on, you haven't got inters on. Go round a lap. You have to get the inters on. You have to get the inters
Exactly.
on. It is one of them things. So the safety aspect, I just find when you've got the best drivers in the world, you put up with it, and that's what Martin Brundle said. You put up with it. You get on with it. You don't, this is not this. What we gonna do? Every time there's a little bit of rain, oh, we've got to wait. We've got to wait till the rain's gone. Oh, no,
Exactly.
it's not racing the rain. If it was like Belgium last year, where it absolutely thick and tipped it down, and it was all, and you could tell that
Yeah.
race was never going to go on, then
It was
fair
thought
enough.
to be next day race, but they couldn't do it.
It was spitting. Like it's currently spitting in the UK now. That's how much the rain was. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go out and drive down the shops. And that's just me as a normal driver, let alone someone that's paid hundreds and hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds to race a car. And don't forget, these are the most safest cars on the planet. Even if you do go into the war at Monaco, very unlikely anything's ever going to happen. Especially at the speed you're going in Monaco. It's not like you're going fast into any of the corners, unless you're Sergio Perez in qualifying.
I knew that's coming.
But it is one. It's just, does that frustrate you, Wayne? Like, especially knowing you've seen back in the old days where they used to just get on with it.
It is frustrating. It's just the way it was. Whole weekend was from start to finish. We was talking about Monaco and about this is an opportunity for them to show why they should stay on this circuit on the new tracks because it's so historic. But there's other tracks that are historic that are not racing anymore. And unfortunately, I'm going to sit here and say with that start and obviously when we get into it, Monaco I think it's done, and it's frustrating because it is an iconic place for so many reasons. But unfortunately, if you're going to have a weather race and start like that, you could have easily made it a race, would be entertaining, and you'll be like, yeah, that's great. Could be like Matt, he's been always cynical about his Grand Prix, but I guarantee if that start happened and everything was going on, you would have said, this is interesting. Even you. And that's why I think it's just they're taking all the fun out of the game, the circuit. They're taking the safety reasons, saying like we're going to overprotect these drivers now. And they don't need to be overprotected. Lewis Hamilton said, because you can see that even everyone's panicking on the grid because of the weather. Lewis Hamilton literally came on and said, "Don't panic. It's okay. Take a deep breath, guys." And this is Lewis Hamilton, for heaven's sake. This is a driver telling the team, calm down. That is just bizarre for me because it should be the team telling the driver. So it is just absolute. Words can't describe.
Honestly, that Lewis Hamilton thing was quote of the year so far from F1 driver. Apart from maybe Stroll's little scream that he did in qualifying. That might be a funny quote of the weekend, but it's true. Like, obviously, we know Lewis is very good in the wet. We've seen what he can do. I'd argue he's probably the best wet weather driver on the grid. Full stop. Um,
Yeah,
if
he is the best, but there's drivers coming into it now
yeah,
from one who do look like they're good in the red, like Norris
yeah,
does look like he
Norris,
can handle the red. Verstappen
Russell,
looks like he can. Russell can.
yeah,
So there is drivers there.
yeah. I'd argue, yeah, the drivers coming up that could do wonderful things, but I think if you've looked at some of the things Hamilton's done in the wet in the past, he's proved it, seen it, done it. Can
Hmm.
probably navigate any wet weather session possible. But it was the fact that he's saying calm down. Everyone just take a chill pill, relax. But obviously, welcome Kevin. I'm doing
Welcome,
well.
Kevin.
Wayne's doing good as well. I can speak for Wayne. Hope you're doing well. Make sure you smash the like button so we can get up to at least 10 likes, guys. We're halfway there, so make sure you get us there as soon as possible. But yeah, Wayne, obviously, we end up finally, after about 15, 20, oh, God knows how many minutes it was, we finally got racing behind the safety car. And then, lo and behold, it fucking tips it down. Absolutely pours down. It felt like we were in a rainforest or something, the amount of downpours it was. And then, obviously, as I think it was Leclerc or Sainz pointed out, it's too wet. It got too wet too quickly. And then finally, the right decision was made to red flag it. So we had one lap under the safety car before we were back in again. All the I love it when they get all the gazebos out all of a sudden very quickly. Mercedes were having a bit of trouble. It was too big. The pit lane was too small to get the gazebo up around the car, so they had to do it and then lift it above, which I found quite funny. because I was like, well, all it takes is one gust of wind and that's gone. But yeah. So in terms of that decision making, obviously, I assume you'll agree with me. It was probably the right decision to do it, but could we have at least, in hindsight now, we could have seen about 15, 20 minutes of racing. And as my dad always says, the best way to keep a track dry is to have Formula One cars racing around it because they take almost of the spray off. It might have had to have been red flagged anyway. We might have got 20 minutes of racing plus probably another 5, 10 minutes more before it would have eventually been given as a red flag. And then we might have seen the whole race. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think it should have been started, and you're 100% right with the drivers where they could have made the track cleaner. But they did the right thing stopping it. But what they didn't, and they did the right thing for me, they didn't start it behind the safety car and start the Grand Prix. As it was going for formation laps, they didn't start the Grand Prix. What I thought was a good decision in the end, because they're still trying to get the whole race in. But why did it take so long? Like we said, we could have been racing in hindsight, and there could have been laps in, but then they should have stopped the red flag and stopped the time as well, because otherwise, if they'd left the timer on, we still wouldn't have completed the Grand Prix. I don't think, because of the other red flag as well, what was involved. It's just, unfortunately, like we said, it's a shambles. How they started it off, it was just a whole complete shambles. And one thing I didn't agree with as well is a rolling start, where it should have been the standing start. The rolling start, all you're doing is giving the drivers, right, it's a rolling start. All you got to do is follow each other around the corner, and
Yeah,
nothing's going to
exactly.
happen.
It's just, again, you'd like to see a standing start, and yeah, I don't know. It just bemuses me. Obviously, eventually, finally, we did actually get some racing, and it was okay. It's typical wet weather, typical Monaco. You can't get round unless someone makes a mistake or you're pretty ballsy at it. There were people that went straight off the wets into intermediates. They didn't.
The
They looked
only
like,
driver that looked like they fixed it was Gasly, didn't he? He's the only one that looked
yeah.
like.
I think they all struggled at first, but I think after 3 or 4 laps, they started getting back into it, and then slowly it started going into inters. But obviously we had the issues with some people going on inters, some people going on straight onto dries. But one thing I wanted to mention, you kind of mentioned him already, Gasly. Not many people were able to overtake at Monaco as usual, as I predicted. But Gasly made some pretty impressive moves, cutting from the back towards into the mid pack. What did you think of some of Gasly's moves?
It showed, I think, for him, it was desperation. I think you can see that he was unhappy with the qualifying. I think he believed he didn't deserve to be there. And they just went for the Hail Mary sort of thing. They took the opportunity they had. And Gasly's one of those drivers. He's always been I think for me, he's always been a very ballsy driver as it is. Like if there's a way of taken over any slim opportunity, he will go for it because he's that sort of driver. And it seems like he goes to the car and that just hooked on straight away. There's other drivers tried it and didn't have a success. Like Vettel, for example, didn't we have it the success that Gasly did?
Vettel's never normally one to be comfortable on the wet. There's just one driver that doesn't like the wet at all.
But it was interesting to watch. Obviously, like you said, drivers was going to intermediates. Then there's drivers saying it's still too wet for inters. Then they're saying yes, inter time. Then you had one driver who's ballsy to say to the team, "No, it's not wet. I'm going straight to dries. I am waiting for it to go straight to dry," and it ended up being the right decision. But unfortunately, Perez, when he went onto his inters, hooked it straight away. Was really quick, and we'll get into now the Ferrari job of pit stops. Oh, Ferrari! What they did was just laughable. I did feel for Leclerc at the time because you can see he was so fast. Before when it was wet, he was up there. No one was catching him. He would look like he had it. He's gone Prix. He was 4 seconds in front, and he looked like he was comfortable being there. And then all of a sudden, he come in for a pit stop. He goes into inters, then he goes to slicks, and they said to him, "No, you got to come back in." And then he's like, "No," but he's really in the pit lane. They double stack, and it just cost him dearly. And it was laughable. But at the same time, I think we should get into the next topic with the Ferrari. We're going to the favourite team of Matt's, Red Bull. Shall we go into the little controversy that happened in the pit lane?
We'll go into it in a little bit, and I'll try and get I'll speak about Leclerc. Kind of my opinion of the Leclerc thing was, I think it was a stupid pit, and I even with Hamilton, I didn't really understand why I didn't want Hamilton to go on to Inter. So I thought if there's any driver that can go on to from wets to dry when it's questionable, it would be Lewis Hamilton. So I thought again going from wets to inters, I thought was a wrong decision. Obviously, even with the strategy he was on, he could have done better. But as we will go into, one driver decided he wanted to go at 5 miles an hour on for the rest of the race, which is fine. It ruined his teammates' chances, and then we'll go into other stuff. But it was so the whole controversy behind it, as you probably all well know by now. There was an incident which both said when Red Bull made their pit stops, both of them came out of the pits and reportedly, and there was video footage of them either touching or crossing the pit lane exit before the line comes, which normally in drive is a clear penalty. I normally see them get given within minutes. It's one of the ones you see it and it's a slam dunk. There's no questions, no arguments, nothing to discuss. But obviously, it wasn't investigated. I think Perez, as I remember, they said they noted it. Max is one they never even mentioned it in terms of stewards. So obviously, Perez and Max, nothing. Not I wouldn't say nothing to do with the decision. They went on and won the race fair and square. But obviously, one of these things, it's normally a 5-second pit stop, which not pit stop, time penalty, which in the grand schemes of things, how close it was, would have lost them first and third. So Ferrari, being Ferrari, being a Formula One team as in their right, decided to appeal the decision, and for the FIA confirmed that they had investigated both Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. Now they put them as separate protests, so they both got called into the stewards, and the FIA both somehow managed to say that they're both cleared of investigation and that no penalties or extra infringements will be given. I will just go through and just getting it up now, their explanation. So on Perez, the FIA said that the Mexican did not have any part of his front or rear tyres on the left of the yellow line and concluded that the protest was unfounded. Sky then went and said that Verstappen's alleged breach always looked more contentious, and the FIA said there was agreement from both Ferrari and Red Bull that part of his tyre was left of the yellow line. But there was a contradiction on the race director's notes, which said drivers must keep to the right side of the yellow line, and the International Sporting Code says any tyre must not cross the yellow line, which, typical F1 rules, contradictions. Why am I not surprised? Typical. Red Bull wanted to go by the International Sporting Code, but Ferrari wanted to go by the race director's notes, which Verstappen definitely broke the race director's notes. It's still arguable whether he broke the International Sporting Code, but the steward said that they will not go by the race director's notes and will go by the International Sporting Code. And they said that his tyre fully didn't cross the line, and that's why Verstappen was not given a penalty. Wayne, in the best possible way, if you fully understood it, because I've read it 3 or 4 times and not understood it. Do you understand the decision, and do you think Ferrari or Red Bull are a bit hard done by here?
I don't understand it. I think they're doing the safety net in the teams, because if you look at, for example, if it was McLaren or if it was Mercedes or even Ferrari at the time, you guarantee there would have been a penalty. For some reason, Red Bull were the team that didn't get it this time.
Clearly, Christian Horner knows where to put his brown envelopes. Well, he done it with the last set of race stewards, and now he's done it.
We're not doing that again.
Allegedly.
We're not doing this again. Right, that's actually it's past due, done. But no,
I'm just glad it's not my team getting faults for it now. I'm glad Ferrari are getting a dose of it now.
But for some. I personally think they both should get the penalties, but it'd be unfair on Perez in a way, the fact because he did have a good weekend in general. Yes, he had that crash, but overall he was quite fast, and he did do something that he hasn't done for ever since he's been there, and that has been in the top 6. And he raced pretty well. And we can't sit there and say he didn't. But if you're going to go by rules, what everyone else is, he's got to suffer. And you obviously it'd be Leclerc, and Sainz will go first and second. Sainz will be first, Leclerc will be second. Then Perez will go third, because I don't think Russell was close enough.
No,
to get.
it depends on what would have happened because how they would have done it. Because they wouldn't have had any pit stops. No, that's fine. Because it would have been judged whether they'd give it a 5 second time penalty or whether they'd give it a, I don't know, harsher. Whether it would affect it in the race, but yeah, they would third and fourth would have been punishment for it. I just think again, I liked the fact that Perez won it because Sergio Perez, I have nothing against, but Sergio Perez, he drives with an idiot teammate, but I'm actually quite happy Sergio Perez won it because it means Max Verstappen didn't win it. But I, as much as I like the fact that Perez has won, unfortunately, rules are rules. And the fact that, as I've mentioned before to Wayne off stream, there have been situations in previous races where not even just crossing, just touching the white line. I think Ocon's been punished by it before. Hamilton's been punished by it before. There's a couple of other the smaller drivers. I think Albon has been punished for it before. I might be wrong on Albon, but that's just a name that's coming to my head. But they've been punished for just touching the white line, let alone crossing the entire white line as it's being decided now. So my problem is, why is this such? This is a rule that should be very much. It's black or white. You do not touch the white line. No excuses. Nothing like that. I was expecting them to go typical. Oh, but it was wet, so then therefore we'd let it off. That's what I thought the response was going to be. But now it's even more convoluted.
Yeah.
But I just think there needs to be a change in rules. And unfortunately, I know they've just come in, but they seriously need to look at these stewards. Because I did see Sky Sports were saying, oh, but it's their first couple of times in Formula One. Yes, but they've been doing other forms of stewarding for other forms of races. They've been doing Le Mans for the last 25 years. So they know how to run a race. It's nothing to do with it's not like they're completely new off the street. It's not like me and Wayne have just jumped into the race stewarding computers and gone, go on, guys, make some decisions. Even though I actually think me and Wayne would have come to more sensible decisions than the others did, but there you go. But they've had decades in motorsport doing stewarding and taking charge of races. So I don't see the excuse for that. I think either it's the rules that are the problem, which if it's the rules and they need to be rewritten, the Americans who are in charge of the F1 at the moment have been here long enough to start changing rules. If their rules have been wrong from Bernie's time or whenever, whatever's wrong needs to be rewritten and it needs to be much clearer. So then we don't get mistakes like this,
Mm.
and we don't get people looking at sporting codes compared to directors' notes. Is it is this what am I wrong saying this, Wayne? That there should just be one set of rules rather than looking at different things. It's like in football. If FIFA had a different set of rules to UEFA on how to play the same game, it's just like say it's like say um, Lukaku scores a goal. It doesn't. It's like if FIFA said, "Oh, it's got to touch the line," but then UEFA said, "No, it's got to fully cross the line." You can't have that. That would be
No.
just shambolic. So why is it different on?
Yeah,
Why is it?
yeah, you're right there. It is
I'm
shambolic.
I'm just flabbergasted at how.
Yeah, I think we both are, and I think a lot of the F1 fans out there are as well. It's just, I think if it's the Americans, because it would make sense because in America, if it's raining, they do normally stop the motor race because they worry about the drivers. So it wouldn't surprise me if it is the Americans that put this rule in. Um, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting saying I'm against Americans. I'm just saying rules in America. That's how what I can get a gist of. So it just be one of those things I think they need to look into because they're taking a lot of the intrinsicity of F1 of what could happen next away from it, and it's just become certain tracks like Monaco. it just made it a dead certain that you know who was going to win it, and it is just silly. Rules was silly. It's just I need to, like I said, we need to look into it. I have got time to look into it. It's not like we're halfway through the season. I think we're not even halfway yet, so they've got chance. They could change it if they need to. I need to look into it as quick as they can. They've got a while now before the next Grand Prix, so they can look into sorting these mistakes out. Obviously, the next thing we'll be talking about is the crash with Mick Schumacher. Now, that took us by surprise for how it came apart again. The only time I've ever seen that is when it was Grosjean and Bahrain. And if you look of how it was done as well, I don't see it was Mick's fault. I think it just something snapped on his back. He just lost it, and fortunately, like we see here, it was just wow. It was a wow moment. Glad he's okay. When I first saw it, I was like really worried, but glad he's okay. But then they started the race again, saying it was just a yellow flag. Everything was fine. Looked like it's going to restart the race, and then all of a sudden, a red flag again because they said when they needed to rebuild the tech area to make it safety, and it was just like, what? 1 minute it can race, then it's red. What's going on here? And it was just absolute clusterfuck. It was just so bad, so bad.
Honestly, I'm now reliving the decision, and it's making me even more angry than I was in the race. And Wayne, I was texting you. I was just done. I mean, I was ranting like crazy. I mean, the crash itself. Obviously, we can see where it's come off at the gearbox. One of my friends that does work at a certain Formula One team in terms of part of engineering did say that part of the car where the gearbox comes on is a weakness, that if it hits in a certain place it does do that, and it does look dramatic, but it's done so it protects the pod of where the driver is. So as bad as it does look, it is one of them ones where it is actually it's done for a relatively safe reason. But I straight away, I looked at it and thought that's a red flag, because you've got Monaco 9 times out of 10 you hit the wall, it's a red flag. There's debris on the track. There's a car split in two. If anyone else messes up on that thing and goes straight into either one of the cars, especially as you saw on the picture, there's a bit of the exhaust just hanging out. If someone hits that they're in trouble. No, the halo is very unlikely to stop that. But they didn't. They went to virtual safety car, then they went to full safety car in the end. I looked and was like, okay, like
Still messing you at a time, saying what on earth's going on?
I looked and was like, hang on. So you've gone from being absolute pansies at the start of the race, saying that they can't drive when it's spitting of rain, to now you don't give a shit about safety. Now there's a car split in two. I looked and was like, why? What the hell? And then they fair enough. They actually got it. Fair play to the guys on the grid. They got the car cleared relatively quickly. They got any of the debris that was on the track fairly moved away quickly, and then lo and behold, the red flag comes in after it's been cleared up because the barrier is not correct. I was like, no shit, Sherlock, you've just had a massive cargo slamming into it so much that the car's broken into. Wouldn't you have understood that the barrier might be a bit damaged? Honestly, it was. It's just
Oh.
awful. I'm trying to go back to I don't
Look, as Matt gets his composure for a minute, it was a bit of a stupid error again by the stewards, and I don't. Obviously, they're going to look. It's going to be a lot of questions now on the stewards for the Grand Prix, because not only did they do that, they decided to carry on with the time, so the race couldn't be completely full. Finish. I don't know how many laps was actually completed at the time,
I
but
think it was like 61, 62.
so there's 15 laps still to go, and they could have stopped the timing and could have let it get fixed, then re-race it again. Um, they just it was, and yeah, it was just really one of those things that just was bemusing to everyone. And then all of a sudden, we thought, no, it couldn't get any more confusing, could it? Yes, it could. Everyone started changing the tyres again after a couple of laps of having tyres. They started changing to mediums and stuff like that. And, and you looked at it and you thought, okay, fine. But now we're going to get into some what I know for a fact Matt's been waiting all stream to talk about. So I'm going to leave it all up to him now, and we're going to have the Matt session. I think Matt should be on the big screen and leave me out of it for a minute, because I think Matt's going to have a good little talk.
Well. So, obviously, in terms of my favourite driver, Lewis Hamilton, if you didn't already know, I just wanted to make it clear, because, some people might be a bit confused why I'm always going at Verstappen and not Hamilton. There you go. I have a little bit of bias. Deal with it. Obviously, he had to get past Alonso. Now, it's one of them things. The Mercedes was actually in race pace very fast. I thought they'd struggle, but they actually did very well. In general, Russell was very much hanging on to the Ferraris. And I think if Hamilton was able to get in that position, I think he would do similar. But Alonso, and this is not even me going to moan at Alonso. I'm going to moan at Alonso because he's being a prat in terms of his driving. But it's not Alonso's fault that the track, and this is the main argument I have for why Monaco is the worst Grand Prix on the calendar, full stop. So Alpine got, so Hamilton is all over for Alonso. He's literally almost pushing Alonso along. He's that close. He's trying to get in away with it. Unfortunately, there is just barely any place to overtake. The reason Gasly was able to overtake in the wet is because you have the thing of teams, drivers will have different levels of grip, and there was times where Gasly had a lot more grip. Driver goes a tad more wide. There's the space to go and dive into. But with someone like Alonso, who's just going to park his car in the middle of the track, it's hard to do that anyway. Now, what Alonso decided to do, which is very stupid because his own teammate had a 5-second penalty for just driving into Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen style. There you go. But it is what it is. So Ocon has a 5-second penalty. But Alpine decided to go, oh, can you go a bit slower, please? Which led to, at one point, Alonso being 3.5 seconds slower than Perez, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Norris, etc., the top 6, which caused from 7th of Alonso all the way down to 20th or 19th, 18th after the Hasses. That's the funny part. No one ever realised that Magnussen had retired because of all the stuff that was going on. That was the thing. I was like, oh, where'd Magnussen go? Like, just randomly just retired. No one knew. But there you go. He held everyone back. Everyone was just going around in a concertina. I was like, oh my God. It got to the point where they said, the lead cars are going to catch up to these guys, and there's going to be absolute carnage to try and get the lead cars back through. It's just so frustrating. It shows why Monaco should not be a track on the F1 calendar, because drivers can go 1 mile an hour if they wanted to. I'm exaggerating, they can't go 1 mile an hour, but they could go as slow as they like because they can just keep the car in the middle of the track and there's no chance of the car behind them getting around. That is not racing. That is not racing at all. We don't want to see cars just going around in the same circle, same loop every single time. We don't. I'd rather, as I said last stream, fucking rather Indianapolis than just us going around in circles compared to Monaco, because at least you can overtake in Indianapolis. Monaco, you can't overtake whatsoever. And this was the brute example of why Monaco should not be a track in Formula One modern history, because the cars are too wide to overtake, unlike back in the day when they were much more slimmer and you could get two abreast. Sebastian Vettel said perfectly, there is no way you can get two cars abreast in Monaco anymore. And even with Lewis Hamilton being 3, 4, possibly 5 seconds faster than Alonso at points, he couldn't get past him because there's no space. And even for a quality F1 driver in Lewis Hamilton, you get the typical Twitter trolls that said, oh, he's no longer in the best car, so he can't even take over Alonso. Well, one, Alonso's a good driver. Two, Monaco's so slim that you can't get fast through. That's just typical Twitter people pretending they know about F1 when they don't. But yeah, it was frustrating, and it didn't work out really for Alonso in the end because Ocon went out of the points because he had the 5-second penalty and everyone was right behind him. So that didn't work out. And even when he tried to boost away, it didn't really work. It was just pointless. And again, well, the race was already ruined by the stewards, but ruined even more by Alonso being Alonso, which is fine. But I just don't want another Monaco Grand Prix ever again. I don't think if by a miracle the contract is re-signed for next season, I don't think I'll watch the Monaco race next season. Because even when it is wet, apparently we can't even race in the wet. So there's no chance of there being an exciting Monaco where we can actually see some overtaking. Wayne, over to you to have a more calm, confident review of that rather than me just ranting and waving.
Well, I don't blame Alonso. I blame the Alpine because they said they wanted to look after the tyres.
Yeah, but there's looking after the tyres and then this guy 3.5 seconds slower.
I know. And Hamilton then was trying his best to get past, and he was using his tyres, mediums, to the point where at the end of the race, he had to stay away from Alonso because he couldn't keep up.
I don't even think it was that. I just think Hamilton just thought, I can't be fucked anymore. I know I'm not going to get past him no matter what, so I'm just going to sit there and do whatever.
Yeah, it could be. And for the literally 4 drivers of all this Red Bull and Ferrari catching up to the back markers, if he carried on, because he'd end up, they'd start going faster when they nearly got close. But if they carried on, that could have been absolute construct.
Now that I actually would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, because he could have get more. Because like Hamilton said, Hamilton said it on his intro. If they're going to be catching up, let me know, because I will try and stay behind them when they get past Alonso, so I can get past. He was smart enough to realise that he could do that, and that's what he could have done. And they left. It would have been interesting to see what happened, but obviously it didn't happen like that.
I think truly, if he got, I know you might not be happy to hearing this, but I think if he was able to get past Alonso, I think Norris could have been in a bit more trouble. Obviously, the fact that it's Monaco, you can't overtake anyway. But in a normal race, I think Norris could have been in trouble because I think Mercedes were
quicker. Those quicker.
Surprisingly quick. I know. Generally, Mercedes the formula has followed this season that we've been useless in qualifying at the best of times, and then in the race we've been better. And I actually didn't think Monaco the qualifying was that bad. Not as bad as the practice. Practice was dreadful, but the qualifying I thought we were actually okay. Just Norris put in a phenomenal lap, one of the best laps I've seen that McLaren do. But in the race, it was like we were supremely faster than you guys. I think we were probably closer to the Ferraris and Red Bulls than we were to you guys, which I was pleasantly surprised with, because at the end of the day, as much as qualifying matters, it's the race that matters the most.
If the race started like we wanted it to, I would guarantee how they was racing, Mercedes would have been a bit of a thorn in both Red Bull and Ferrari through the race. Because I think they both could have caused a bit of damage in one way or another. But I admit it, McLaren was fortunate in that sense. And we was lucky because he got another stop, took fresh tyres, and we run out of time because we was quite close to Russell. Like you said, might not be able to overtake, but it could have been an opportunity to overtake him. because tyres was going. But I will obviously now we're getting to the end of it because let's be honest, the race not a lot of incidents we happened in the
Yeah.
race. It's more
Well,
outside the
do
race,
you know what made me laugh? It was hard. I think it was like 30 laps in, and they put like they put like the overtake, who's had the most overtakes, and it was two drivers that had overtaken people, and the rest was zero. I was like, that's how bad this race is. The fact that you're halfway through and only two overtakes have been made in the entire thing.
and it was Gasly, and I think it was Joe. And that was it.
Yeah, because Joe was at the back and shouldn't have been at the back. Really, it was just because of mechanical issues. But it's embarrassing. I don't know. It's embarrassing. I mean, we'll go into a few things. So, driver of the day. Who would be your driver of the day? Not that it's much of a choice because everyone was just meh. And
Mm.
it's not really driver of the day. It was who was good best queuer of the day. Yes, I'd say because everyone was just queuing up.
If I'll be honest, the driver of the day for me, it was it's Perez. I think we can easily say be up there because he won the race and he did have a good weekend. But for me, in the race, trying to make it entertaining was Gasly.
I was going to say I'm 110%. After we criticised Gasly yesterday on Saturday a little bit, I'm going to go for Gasly because I think he was the only one that was ballsy enough to get some overtaking done. It was the most entertaining part of the race that wasn't because of shambolicness.
Mm.
I think Perez won the race, and fair enough, well done. That was good. I think it was
Deserved. It was deserved over
deserved.
the
Yes, it was
quickness.
deserved. But I am going to make the point that I'm going to take the rule breaking into account and give it to Gasly because Gasly I thoroughly enjoyed. I was cheering Gasly. I was like, come on, get some more. Couldn't get any more done, but it is what it is. I'm glad we both said Gasly because I thought, oh, he's going to say Perez. But now you said Gasly, I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of happy that we both. Well
Yeah,
done,
I was,
Gasly. Yeah, Gasly
uh,
done really well.
but I'm not going to take away from Perez because, like we said, for the
Yeah,
weekend overall, I think if we look at the pace, he deserves it because he did keep the pace throughout the weekend. But if we're going to go on the Grand Prix, it's going to be Gasly.
definitely. Obviously, we have got a week's break in between races going into the next race, which is Azerbaijan. Are you looking forward to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix? I always think it's a nice, unique looking circuit. I love the castle part. I think that's fantastic visually, and it's been a track that's caused some controversies in the past. All I think of is brake check between Vettel and Hamilton. That was a big saga back in the day when Azerbaijan first came there.
Or last year with the tyres.
Yeah, last year the time it's been something that's put up a surprise. Are you looking forward to Azerbaijan
I've
compared to
never
this?
been.
Obviously, definitely, but
I'll be honest. I've never been a fan of Azerbaijan. I've never liked the circuit. I just think it's one of those circuits for me. Is you can only have a few laps and it's entertaining, but when it starts getting more open, it's like Monaco following because there's the DRS train and everything like that because it's just silly for me. But
I wonder whether this would be one of them ones where you wasn't really able to follow as well as that in Azerbaijan. If you can follow, I wonder if that big straight will give the advantage that we need.
that's what I'm saying. So let's see what happens now with the new cars and the new situation. McLaren's never had a good time race over there, so as well that's another reason we've never had a good race over there. And I'm going to quickly talk into it because I think I'm allowed. He's had another poor race, Ricardo, and you can sit and say it's Monaco's fault. But I'm not going to start blaming Monaco for him. He poor performance in qualifying. He needs to sort it out it's getting to the point where it's getting ridiculous. I was IndyCar, we had two McLarens at the front, and you got in this, we got struggling, and Norris is doing his best, but we're struggling. The other driver's struggling. It's not right. McLaren needs better. We mentioned him today, and I wouldn't mind him coming over, Pierre Gasly. I wouldn't mind him coming in instead at the moment because I think he'll do well
I think he'll
with a
take
car behind him.
Stroll over Ricciardo at the moment.
No, not that bad. But I think something needs to be done, and hopefully something can be done before Azerbaijan, if either with Ricardo mentally getting himself sorted or changing drivers. But we'll wait and see for that from McLaren. But yeah, it's good little couple of weeks now. We can have breaks. We've got no football and we've got no F1. So me and Matt will obviously have a little conversation behind the scenes. We might try and do a couple of videos, fun videos coming up, maybe. See how you like it and see how it goes. But please come and support us because we are a brand new channel. Yes, we do another channel, but this is a little baby what me and Matt been talking about for a couple of months, and then we spoke to Sleek and we all did it together. We love your support. We love your the energy we're getting from the F1 fans base, and we're like, please share it and try and get as many likes as we can. And you never know what can happen in the future. We can be doing more different videos. Even me or Matt, if depending on how we're feeling and what we're doing, if we might be doing some backgrounds, if we can get to Formula One, we might be able to go to circuits and film and do some vlogging. So it's keep on supporting, keep on the likes. That's what we want. We're going to try and build the worldwide F1 community up. It's not about the money or anything like that. We're doing this because of the enjoyment of chatting to people about F1 because we both love F1. We're both big fans, even though some of us are a bit biased about drivers. But it's what we are. We're going to have KJ. Obviously, you met KJ. He's a great guy. He's been working hard with us.
Supports the wrong drivers, but there you go.
He's been doing a lot of work for us as well, and he deserves a lot of love and support because he's been working hard. Obviously, you met Sadiq. We've got other people we know as well. Comes in like Nick, and we're going to try and build this community, and we love your support and everything. So please keep on smashing that like button for us. Be very much appreciated for all the F1 community of worldwide F1.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think we're at 9 likes at the moment. So if you can get us that final 10 means 20 likes for. Well, I haven't actually checked the like total since the stream, but in stream, 20 likes in the stream. If we can get that, we've got a few minutes left. Please smash that like button, get us to 10 likes. We are on 24 subscribers, as I saw just before this stream. So make sure, I think our target is 50 subscribers by the British Grand Prix. If you can get us that would be fantastic as we continue to grow. As Wayne said, we will look to do many different videos in between. Obviously, it is in the UK Jubilee weekend, so we'll possibly try and get something out at least. If not, then we'll kind of do a little build up to Azerbaijan closer to the time. There will be other stuff on here. Hopefully, one day we'll get to the circuits and we can do some vlogs, maybe catch up with some people and get some interviews out for you guys. One thing I'm looking at I might consider doing is a little karting vlog. I will be going karting at the end of August at a a fairly famous karting circuit. When I used to go back in the day when I used to do karting as a kid, and it's had the likes of Lewis Hamilton, Norris, Button karting there back in the old days. So I'll give you a proper look at how a good karting circuit is, and hopefully I actually do quite well this time because last time I had a crash in the first lap, but we won't get to that. We'll get to that after. Hopefully it'll be a longer than one lap of me breaking my ribs because some idiot decides to want to be a big boy and put me in the wall. But there you go. yeah, so we'll hopefully get that out. That'll be around the end of August, and we'll get lots of other content for you guys. It's a new channel, so we want you just to help us try and push out to as much people as possible. Any of your mates, your friends, your family at Sport Formula One, get them on. Even if they just come on, like the video, because that pushes us out on the algorithm to many more people, and then we can start building this channel. And then once we've got enough people on, we can get you involved. Obviously, we've got Kevin in the comments has come on, Sadiq's come on. But when we get enough people, enough comment section going, we'll ask questions, we'll go into little debates. Then eventually some of you will bring you guys on for little live phone-ins and stuff like that. So make sure you tune in. Keep tuning into this channel. Obviously, we've got the logo. We've got the beautiful countdown. We've got the beautiful background. We've got a beautiful panel. So what more could you like? All we just need is you beautiful subscribers. But yeah, that is, I think, kind of it. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Wayne, before we finish up about the Grand Prix?
No, I think we've got into everything. We're main talking point. I think we've had our little one, and so I think we're all good.
Yeah, hopefully this is hopefully this is the last ever Monaco Grand Prix we do. Bring back South Africa for my man KJ, so we can definitely get to that one day. But yeah, we'll see you once again on another stream of Worldwide F1. This is Matt, this is Wayne, and from all the other people, all the other panelists, Nick, KJ, Sadiq, this is Worldwide F1 signing out.